Welcome to Catholic Restoration Conference 5. This is Judith Sharp. Since we haven't had an update on the Sister Lucy Truth Movement in some time, we thought it appropriate to do just that, get an update. Therefore, Dr. Peter Hynowski, Director of Sister Lucy Truth, joins us today to bring us current information about the movement. He's given his talk the title of The Phantom Sister Lucy Theory and an Attempt to Hijack a Criminal Investigation. Doesn't that sound rather ominous? I think so. Well, Peter, welcome back. I, for one, am eager to hear the news. What's going on?
Well, I think that the whole Phantom Sister Lucy theory, which I mentioned in the title, is really something that, in a certain way, is positive for the Sister Lucy Truth investigation, because at least it shows that people are having to recognize that there was a fake Sister Lucy put in place, at least by May 13th, 1967. So people are having to recognize it. They're recognizing that it's obvious when the evidence is presented. However, once it's obvious, that they want to change the narrative and add to the narrative so it doesn't seem so bad for the perpetrators of this crime. Because we at Sister Lucy Truth hold it's a crime, even that there was a crime involved here, even though we don't know what happened to the original Sister Lucy dos Santos of Fatima, nor do we know who her replacement was, exactly what the imposter's identity is. Still, we recognize that there was a crime. Either she was taken out by murder, either she was unlawfully imprisoned and put away, or certainly, no doubt, she was subject to identity theft and on a grand scale. And in her name, there were various crimes committed, like the Fatima message was distorted and changed, like there was voter fraud. Someone voted in her name year after year. And so this is a matter of criminality. And people who hear the story but have a different, and look at the facts, but they have a different agenda, try to steer the narrative and hijack the facts and the investigation to go in their own direction according to their own agenda. The Phantom Sister Lucy theory is simply that while this imposter it was on the scene, this woman claiming to be Sister Lucy, the real Sister Lucy was at the convent, continuing to all in Coimbra, meeting with people, sending correspondence to people, in hundreds and even thousands of correspondence, and even meeting with people regularly. And this continued to exist all the way into the 21st century.
Do you think she?
So you had the fake out in public and meeting with the popes and giving interviews and appearing with cardinals, and you had the fake sister, the real Sister Lucy, behind the scenes, unseen, but continuing to live, continuing to correspond, continuing to make statements.
Can I just ask a question? Do you think she knew that there was an imposter out there talking for her or speaking for her? Do you think?
Well, that's what I'm saying. This is the theory. This is the theory that people are putting forward, and I believe, and I don't just believe it, I know it, that the theory is so implausible as to be ridiculous and to be almost impossible. I mean, we at this point, since we don't know forensically that it didn't happen absolutely, we don't know what happened to the real Sister Lucy. Even though we don't know, we can say this is so implausible as to be nearly impossible.
I would
And
say.
that because, I mean, just mathematically speaking, just thinking about it from those who perpetrated the crime and the imposture, how likely would it be that someone would, if she's meeting with hundreds of people over the course of decades, if she's continually corresponding with people, if she's making statements about Fatima, if she's even running into nuns continually in the convent, how likely is it that someone is not going to point the finger and say, wait a minute, no, this woman who's appearing on the screen, this woman who's appearing in all the pictures and videos and interviews is not the real Sister Lucy. I met with the real Sister Lucy, and she's still in the convent, and that's not her. And that woman with the chin is not her. I mean, if she's me, well, the odds would be overwhelming because someone could point out that this fraud is taking place.
Yeah.
And the Vatican, who was obviously in charge of this whole escapade and this crime, would be able to would risk having their whole puppet show blown and their whole replacement pointed out, and their whole modernist a takeover of the church exposed. So how likely is it that they're going to risk exposure by keeping the real Sister Lucy around and interacting with people continually? It's just not plausible.
Who are the people?
While the fake is out there.
Who are the people who are putting forward that
Well, I'm
garbage?
not going to. I'll put out the Fatima Center because that's an organization which has been very public. But there's people in Brazil. There's people in Poland now who are sort of jumping on the whole bandwagon of this Phantom Sister Lucy idea. And it's continuing to spread. It threatens to derail the whole Sister Lucy truth investigation because it makes it seem basically like just a shadow play.
Yeah.
Like, well, there was nothing really threatening, which just almost like a change of, oh, you play this character and I'll play this character, and we'll just change the situation with regard to the play, and we'll continue that for 40 years.
That doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make any sense. I mean, if the Vatican is going to put someone else in her place, the real Sister Lucy, the seer of Fatima, the woman who is charged with spreading the message of Fatima, if they put her aside, if for all these decades someone who was not her was assumed to be her, if they pull that off, they're not going to risk exposure by keeping the real Sister Lucy around. I think that's just common sense, isn't it? I'm not adding any information to the whole investigation like they are. Or they're trying to. I'm simply stating the facts that this just is not plausible, and it really weakens, if not destroys, the whole force of the case, that we're really investigating a crime.
Well, like I said, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, I mean, it's almost laughable to think that Sister Lucy, the real Sister Lucy, is there in the convent while somebody else is out speaking for her without her knowing it. Number one, and I mean, there would, like you said, there would be just too many people around. I do have a question now. For instance, when Mel Gibson and his wife went to visit, there were pictures of that. Do you think that was the real Sister Lucy?
No.
I don't think so either.
All.
Okay.
Not at all. That was in 2001, I believe.
Yeah.
And no, there's no way. There's no way that was the real Sister Lucy. But nobody knew. He didn't know. It's not his fault.
Yeah.
And how many people met with the fake? Because according to our judgment, We don't. Again, we don't go beyond the facts that we have. According to our judgment, the real Sister Lucy disappeared by 1959.
Yeah,
She
I
was
think so
off the
too.
scene because they were making statements for her. For example, in July 1959, the diocese of Leiria, Fatima, was felt free enough, felt um, confident enough to make the statement that Sister Lucy has no more to say about Fatima. They
Wow.
made that statement, and they denied the content of the Father Fuentes interview, which was
Really?
so powerful. Absolutely, they had Sister Lucy, quote unquote, deny that she had made any statements of that kind. No apocalyptic statements, as she says. She was just talking about her cousins and nothing about other the punishments of God, or the end times, or nothing like that. It was simply talking about her cousins, and that's it. And then came out the statement from the diocese: Sister Lucy has no more to say about Fatima. That was July 1959.
Well, and
Now,
did
don't tell me if they knew that the real Sister Lucy was alive and the year 1960 was coming in 6 months. Don't tell me that they would ever feel free and confident to make that statement that she had no more to say about Fatima.
and you're referring to the fact that in 1960 the third secret was supposed to be revealed.
Correct. The third secret was supposed to be revealed by 1960.
Right.
I mean, that was a key part of Sister Lucy's mission.
Right.
And and so this is the case, and adding to the inference that we're making that this phantom Sister Lucy idea is absurd. But think, Judy, and we're trying to get together all the crimes that would have been committed by the real Sister Lucy, if this phantom Sister Lucy idea is true. One is voter fraud. One is allowing someone to take your own identity when it's a false identity. Think of what we would be saying about the real Sister Lucy if this phantom Sister Lucy idea is true. We'd be saying that she was silent with regard to the failure to reveal this third secret by 1960.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
No, we would be saying she was silent in the face of the modernist takeover of the Catholic Church.
No.
The change of the Mass, the change of the doctrine, the new theology. She would be absolutely silent, hiding in her convent.
Not when she was so prolific at writing and all the stuff that she did and all she said before that. No, that's not a possibility.
Yeah.
I don't know how they could come up with such a thing.
In the Fatima Center, they, of course, okay, I'll accept this as a positive thing because it is. They acknowledged that since 1967, there was an imposter Sister Lucy. They've acknowledged that. Good. But the next thing they do is to say that the real, well, first of all, they indicate that it doesn't really matter, which is absurd, that the replacement of Sister Lucy doesn't matter, really, ultimately. Because of course it does. I mean, in a profound way.
Oh, it's
then they say the real Sister Lucy continued to exist all the way to 2001. And the reason they say that is because occasionally some story purporting to be from Sister Lucy, quote unquote, affirmed what the Fatima Center was saying about Fatima, the third secret, the consecration of Russia, basically the consecration of Russia. If Sister Lucy, quote unquote, said something that it was in line with the Fatima Center's read on the consecration of Russia, then that was the real Sister Lucy talking. If it was contrary to what the Fatima Center said about the consecration of Russia, then that was the fake Sister Lucy. That showed you it was the fake Sister Lucy. But that position is unscientific. The position is illogical. Just because someone agrees with your position, that doesn't mean they're a certain person. This is a matter of personal identity. If we get philosophical, it's a matter of ontology. Like, who is this being that is here? Is it the real Sister Lucy dos Santos, or is it someone else? What this individual says about the consecration of Russia is really beside the point.
Well, what are they saying that she said about the consecration of Russia?
Well, on occasion, she said they heard stories which from priests that said, "Oh, well, the consecration of Russia hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened yet. Into the 80s, it hasn't been done," and so therefore, their reading is, since she said this, and since this is the position of the Fatima Center, therefore, the real Sister Lucy continued to exist all the way to 2001. They give you a date.
So what's significant about 2001?
Well, for some reason, they read 2001. They read 2001, and I don't know. Maybe some other statement she made by then that agrees with their position. I don't know, because there's no real evidence, real verifiable and certain evidence that she existed anywhere near the 21st century.
Well, Peter, if her demise was in 2001, do we know where she's buried? Do we know?
Yeah, where is she?
Yeah, do we know exactly what the date was? Do we know what she died from?
Of course not.
I mean,
of
nothing,
course not,
right?
Because
this is crazy.
That person didn't exist.
I understand.
Really
I know what
exist.
You're saying.
And we know that the imposter died in 2005, and we
know that?
We believe. Yeah, 2005. Yeah, that was when they showed the funeral, the casket.
Oh, that's right.
Died. And remember that whole thing. Sister Lucy's died, and the deceived people of Portugal who came to Fatima to see her burial, the grand deception. They witnessed her burial. She died. Well,
they ought to
apparently she's in that she's buried at the shrine of Fatima.
They ought to exhume the body and see what ashes.
I know that's the thing, but see, what would be the force? What would be the real force of the argument that the body should be exhumed if the two Sister Lucys were playing, were sort of playing games, and they were really both there, but one was the public face of Sister Lucy and one was just the private face.
And they know that one died in 2005, but they don't tell you when
they don't tell you when the other one died.
This is ludicrous.
And how and where she was buried. And no, Judy, where's the evidence? Where are the people's testimony that shows you where did anyone ever say in the hundreds and hundreds of people the real Sister Lucy supposedly met in the period 1960 to 2000, let's say? Where are the people who said that there was actually two Sister Lucys, one behind the scenes and one in public? Where did anyone say that in the course of all those years? Where? Who said it? Nobody has ever said it. According to the world's view, that woman with the big chin is the Sister Lucy. That's her right there. That's with the glasses. That's her. Right? And so where's the evidence? Where's the personal testimony that there was two? They for example, another big achievement of ours that occurred this summer was when the Fatima Shrine had to send someone out to the uh, Coimbra convent in Portugal, where Sister Lucy lived as a Carmelite. And in the course, and this interviewer from the Fatima Shrine interviewed two Carmelite nuns from the Coimbra convent, both of which supposedly knew Sister Lucy. Okay. And they had to mention, he had to bring up, and they had to address the imposter Sister Lucy, idea that
Really?
we've been putting forward and proving. They had to address it. Of course, they laughed it off, but he brought it up twice to them, and they had to respond. Of course, the only Sister Lucy they ever knew was the imposter Sister Lucy. The old nun that they put there only entered the convent in 1974, when Sister Lucy was long gone from the scene. So, but they had to address the problem. So, they didn't say, well, yes, we've for security purposes, we had to have this fake nun. I mean, this nun take the place of Sister Lucy, but the real Sister Lucy was there, and we lived with her. And they didn't say that. They just laughed off the whole idea of an imposter Sister Lucy. So no one is. The only people that are affirming this theory are those who want to mitigate the force of the evidence. The evidence points to those who run the organization of the Catholic Church since 1958 having committed the crime of replacing the real Sister Lucy with an imposter. The people who are talking about this Sister Lucy, the phantom Sister Lucy idea, are trying to mitigate the force
Sure.
of the argument of that evidence.
Oh, I'm glad to hear you say so 1958, because that's my feeling too, that everything changed in 1958. And
I mean, there'd be no way that in July 1959, if she was still around, that they could say Sister Lucy has no more to say about
it's ridiculous.
There's no way she wouldn't tolerate it. And because I want to point this out too. Yeah, I think I did speak about it a few minutes ago, but what she would be guilty of, this theory, even though it comes off as being very innocent, very helpful, very, we're just thinking through this whole thing. Look at what they're actually saying. The real criminal in their scenario is not the Vatican.
Is the real Sister Lucy.
Yeah, it's the real Sister Lucy. She's the real criminal.
Yeah.
And the Vatican was just trying to help out.
Oh, no,
but that's the force of the argument that they're making. That's what ends up happening. They want to whitewash the Vatican's involvement because they don't want any idea to enter people's mind that there was criminality involved.
Right.
That criminality, not just, differing this or that or differing perspectives, criminality. They don't want that to come out. They don't want that to be generally accepted and the finger to be pointed at the Vatican. Because we know, Judy, that nothing like this would ever happen without the Vatican initiating it or signing off on it. There's no way.
Well, Peter,
there's no way.
My feeling is that somehow or another they've missed the whole idea that the real Sister Lucia was visited by Our Lady, that she saw Our Lady, that she would do anything and everything that Our Lady said she was to do. I mean, this is heavenly, divine, and it's like they put it in a secular idea. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Right. This woman has to be a saint, and saints don't do criminal things.
No, they don't do criminal things, and they don't remain quiet.
No.
As their identity is taken, as statements are made for them, which are not their own. And what is Fatima about if it's not to uphold the Catholic faith and to live the Catholic life? What is Fatima about? If she was silent in the face of all the abominations that happened after Vatican II, if she was silent, well, that's criminal.
Can you imagine her being silent, like
No.
you said in July of 1959,
No.
and then in 1960? Could you imagine her being silent and not reprimanding the Pope for not allowing the third secret to come out? She would have been very vocal, I would think.
Absolutely. She would, of course, she would have, and that she would allow someone else to meet with John Paul II for her.
Oh no!
And speak for her, and I mean, all the way until 2000, like Cardinal Bertone was meeting with the fake Sister Lucy. Now, this is another thing. Was meeting with the fake Sister Lucy, and the third secret supposedly, which they released in 2000. At least not the full third secret, certainly, or not the force of it. She would have remained silent in the face of that revelation. Oh, here's the third secret, and it's about John Paul II being assassinated. And
still laugh at that.
Which is a complete and utter joke.
Yeah, I know it is.
And utter ridiculous joke put forth on the whole world, on the Catholic peoples. It's an insult. Let's just think about it. Why would you have to warn people in 1960 about an assassination attempt that would happen in 1981? Why would you have to warn people about that?
I
don't think absolutely absurd. So no, she would have remained silent in the face of all that, because according to Fatima Center and according to others, she lived until 2001. So she would have remained silent in the face of that total distortion of the third secret. Well, what a pathetic woman she would be. I mean, what happened to this great paragon of virtue and piety, and what would happen to that woman over the course of those? She just became a little Novus Ordo nun in a convent of the Opus Dei. Give me a break.
Well, and before that, before 1958, didn't she warn what was going to happen, what we were going to be? I mean, I guess that was in her interview with Fuentes.
Yeah, Father Fuentes.
And they discount that now. Is that right? Is that what you're saying? They just kind of...
Well, they just include that in their whole, because they basically, it's seamless again, right? The whole life, this phantom Sister Lucy people. Now Sister Lucy's life becomes basically seamless, because she was making statements even past 1957 and on till 2001, basically. But they mitigate the force of that last interview with Father Fuentes, which we would say is her last interview that was made known to the public.
Right.
On December, the day after Christmas, 1957, in which she said, "This is the final battle between our Lady and Satan, and you can't be in the middle. You have to choose sides." And the Rosary and the devotion to the Immaculate Heart are the last devotion, and the means that God gives us now to save ourselves and to save the world. And that was really her last statement to the world, and it was very strong. God is ready to chastise the world. What a chastisement! What a world! How has the world changed and become so distorted and unnatural, and constantly on the brink of total destruction, in a frightening way.
I
So
totally
that was
agree.
her, you know, beautiful and I mean, you read the interview and you say this is a real Catholic person, and this is the real saint. This is the real woman who had Our Lady and our Lord revealed to her and it appeared to her.
Yeah.
I mean, another thing is, remember Pius XII made the statement that he was worried because the nun of Fatima, this Sister Lucy, was giving these warnings all the time, coming from Our Lady, warning them against changing the liturgy, because when you were changing the liturgy, you change the faith, and he was worried about that and those continual statements that were being made. This was Pius XII being worried about it. So, in the face of the liturgical abominations that happened, in the '60s and after, she would remain silent after hearing from Our Lady how essential it was to maintain the traditional liturgy, and because it was a matter of the faith itself being maintained. I mean, she would remain silent behind the scenes, even participate.
I think she'd be telling Bonini where he would be going.
Exactly, and she would participate in the Novus Ordo because
No.
there's no traditional mass in
No.
that convent. She would be. I mean, according to these people, according to these phantom Sister Lucy people, this really gets me. She would be participating in the Novus Ordo, and they say, and I've heard it from them, oh, because she was so obedient. Ridiculous. Absolutely absurd. There's a time when obedience doesn't really kick in.
Oh no.
I mean, there's when which if you saw all the things that happened, and Jesus Christ appeared to you, and the Blessed Virgin Mary appeared to you, and you had a revelation and a vision of the Holy Trinity, would you care?
I think you'd
Would you
stick
pretty
with the
much care
truth.
about obedience to maybe when they tell you to sweep the floor or something, but not when they tell you to shut up about the third secret and
And not stick up for the
the
true
attack
faith.
over of the attack on the church by the Masons.
That is really an well, it's the whole thing is ludicrous, like I said before. I just don't understand how people think. Why would they try to even put out this junk?
Because the facts threaten to overturn their narrative.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
facts, the brute facts, threaten to overturn their narrative. What are the narratives? One narrative of the Fatima Center is that, for all those years until apparently 2000 into the 21st century, you had Sister Lucy saying the consecration of Russia has not been done. The consecration of Russia has not been done. The consecration of Russia has not been done. And if you say that, and they said, see, the real Sister Lucy said that it hadn't been done. And if you suddenly show that that wasn't the real Sister Lucy at all, well, then, everything you've said about the real Sister Lucy says this sort of goes out the window. But listen, we knew him. We knew Father Gruner personally, Judy.
I know
Well,
we had.
we knew him
We all did.
well. We also knew someone who worked with him, John Veneri, very well.
Right.
And we worked with them. We loved them. They knew us, and they would in light of the evidence, they would never. They would say immediately, "Well, there was a fraud perpetrated." Clearly, distinctly, they would say, "I have no doubt in my mind that in light of the evidence that we've presented," they would say there was a fraud perpetrated. But their successors, have a different agenda. They got to keep the show on the road, and they have to say the same thing over and over and over again, no matter what the truth is.
Peter, what I'm thinking is, I wonder if part of their whole reason for all this, and I think you're going to agree with this, is to prove to people that the new mass is okay. That you don't the Pope is still the Pope. Uh, do you think this is part of their reasoning?
No doubt. No
Okay.
doubt. No
Okay.
doubt. It's to make it seem like they weren't really, there was no, as I use the word and I mean it, there was no criminality involved at the Vatican. Maybe they were a touch too liberal. That word that can basically mean anything you want it to mean.
Yeah.
Liberal. They were a little bit too liberal, a little bit too, weird, creepy, in the little bit too far out. But basically they were Catholic, and basically they had the good of the church in mind, and basically they made a few mistakes, and but
But all the changes were just fine because they made them, and we obey, and we know that
right, right,
they're
and there's
divinely inspired. Blah
right,
blah.
and they had best intentions in mind, and you can't cut them off. And
Right.
by saying they're criminals, let's just name names: John the 23rd, Paul the Sixth, John Paul the Second, uh, Joseph Ratzinger,
Oh my
and
goodness.
certainly Francis, who you know beatified Jacinta and Francisco without any reference. Oh, I guess he canonized them. I can't. I guess he canonized them.
I
Um,
can't tell you because I don't
I,
pay any
I
attention
don't.
what Francis
I,
does or
I
doesn't
can't
do.
quite remember, um, but you know, so he don't tell he. Of course he knew. Of course he knows about the whole Sister Lucy fraud,
Yeah.
but see, we don't want to say that there's criminality involved. They're just mistakes made. They're just too liberal, and we want to be more conservative. We want to, stay with more traditional. No,
Yeah.
no, wrong, wrong. And you threatened the whole investigation. These people threatened the whole investigation, and they call Sister Lucy a criminal when it's the Vatican that was the criminal, and all those at the convent of Coimbra who participated in this criminal act of the highest order. I'll say it publicly on your show because that's exactly what it was. And if they don't like it, tough luck, because that's exactly what happened. And they are lying. To put this forward is not just to create some kind of this is this is claiming as fact something that's no more than their historical fiction. Show me one picture with the real sister, anyone who even remotely looks like the real Sister Lucy in the convent and at Coimbra. Show me one picture. If we find one, if we find videos and testimonies and pictures, okay, I'll acknowledge it, no doubt. How many pictures have we seen? How many videos have we seen? And not one even remotely shows anyone who looks like the real Sister Lucy sort of in the background with this fraud with the
In
big glass
in the
there.
forefront.
And listen, Judy, another point. If the real Sister Lucy was going to go along with the failure to reveal the real third secret and the modernist revolution, if she was willing to go along with it, why didn't they keep her? Why did they
Well,
need the
that's a good
fraud?
point, isn't it? Yeah. I
Why
mean,
did they need the fraud? Just keep her. Just trot her out. She
exactly.
just will agree with everything and say, Pope says, Pope says, Pope says. And,
Oh, they know she wouldn't.
obedience, obedience, Pope says. Yes, Mother Superior. If she was willing to go along with everything, keep her. Why open yourself up to this incredible, claims of fraud that we're now putting forward. Why open yourself up to it at all? Why open yourself up to that embarrassment that would happen? And
That's really weird. It's weird.
it's weird, but there's an agenda behind it to whitewash the Vatican's involvement, to what and
Yeah.
who to whitewash new church's involvement in the disappearance of the real Sister Lucy.
And to whitewash all of the bad things that have happened to the church and make the establishment, excuse me, that's in quotes, establishment church look like a real church instead of a counterfeit church.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, disgusting.
You had a. I mean, there's a perfect alignment there. The counterfeit church and the Catholic Church with the counterfeit Sister Lucy and the real Sister Lucy.
And would she have gone along with the counterfeit church?
Parallel. What?
And would she have gone along with the counterfeit church? I don't think so.
Not the real one.
I don't know.
Look at the pictures of the real Sister Lucy, which are all over the place, and we have hundreds of them.
Yeah, I have them.
And the real Sister Lucy, tell me that woman would ever go along with the insanity which happened 60s and onward.
Not a woman who literally. No. I mean, I think of Bernadette,
yes.
As another marvelous saint and a saint around those times,
yes.
that would have died first than to have gone along with something so horrible. And that's what you have to figure with Lucia. She obviously had to die because she wouldn't go along with all that. And they probably just killed her. They probably just poison, like they do all the time. They do poison people in the Vatican all the time.
Yeah, I know. Hopefully one day we find out. But if she was, let's just think this through. If she was just locked away somewhere far away, and not eliminated by being murdered, there's still the risk of her coming forward. There would still be the risk of someone meeting her,
exactly,
and revealing that she was in this situation. There'd still be the risk of her coming out one day and calling a press conference, and CNN being there and saying, "Oh, we found the real Sister Lucy. She was locked away for 30 years, and
sure, and even
she speaks about her imprisonment and why the Vatican did it."
Sure, and even
you might as well shut down the Novus Ordo churches because no one would be coming.
Well, like you said, the risk would be ridiculous because even whoever might have been serving her in her confinement on deathbed could have, revealed the truth or whatever if they were sworn to some secrecy for fear of their own death. The whole thing is just nonsense. It's absolute nonsense.
I know, but they're sort of trembling now, and they have to come up with a narrative because it makes their popes and seem pretty
legitimate.
If the real Sister Lucy was eliminated and an imposter put forward and the real story covered up, it casts a very bad light on all those men from John the 23rd on to this present day.
Yeah.
And puts a very,
that would be wonderful.
Sinister, a sinister light on all those men. And, listen, if we can empirically say that woman disappeared, shouldn't a sinister light be cast on those who would have to have signed off on the crime?
Absolutely.
I mean, I've had people, I've been interviewed by people who have said, "Oh, it must have been some low-level Vatican official who, agreed to it and ordered it."
Are you kidding?
No,
come on.
I've had someone say that, and I'm like, I don't remember what I said.
Well,
but it's so anyone who knows the Catholic Church in any way, and anyone who knows about what Fatima is for the Catholic Church in any way would see that that's absolutely absurd.
Well, and Peter, if you just think of you think the Sister Lucy didn't have in her knowledge about all the saints that went before her and how they suffered and how they died
Right.
heroically trying to save the faith
Yeah,
and
yeah.
reveal truths. And I
Right.
mean, heroic it is beyond belief because how many of them suffered. She knew all that. She would do the same thing. She would die first than
Yeah.
to accept and be a part of a fraud.
I mean,
It's not a possibility.
when she was 10 years old, right? Rather than reveal the when she was 10 years old, rather than reveal the third secret to this nasty Masonic,
Right.
underling and operator in Coimbra, I mean in Leiria, she serving the Masonic Republic of Portugal. She was willing to be boiled in oil
Exactly. And
and
and her
see her two beloved, cousins boiled in
right.
oil. No
Right.
problem. You know, go.
So so
And
it,
yet she would do this to the Catholic world,
no.
remain silent while this fraud was flouncing herself around,
No.
holding the hands of popes, and
No.
you know
Ugh.
and waving and speaking and saying, for example, like she did in 1993, the fake. She said, "Well, Russia, the conversion of Russia doesn't mean converting to the Catholic faith. It means converting to a system where all people can, practice their religion according to their conscience."
I don't think that's what God had in mind.
I mean, give me a break.
I agree. Oh, mercy. This is nuts.
No, once we go beyond the facts, uh, the basic facts that have been discovered and acknowledged, you get into historical fiction. And if you want to portray it as such, fine. But if you want to portray it as this is what actually happened, then you got a problem. Then you got a fight on your hands because I'm not tolerating, the attempt to, this is really an attempt to hijack the whole Sister Lucy Truth investigation and, go down their own road and which is totally uninteresting. I mean, if this was the real case where the Sister Lucy, the real one, was sort of sitting back and, blithely living in her convent while this fake was in the public eye, why even investigate? What's the purpose? But if it's a crime, then justice demands that you investigate. Then the rocks themselves have to shout out that something happened. So it's a serious matter. Thank you for giving me this venue here, because in Poland, for example, they're putting this story out. A television station that ran the Sister Lucy story a couple of, I think, 3 years ago, and pointing out the obvious fact that there was an imposter. Now they come back and they're saying, "Oh, yes, there was. Oh no, the real one was still there, but behind the scenes." And and they portray. I'll give you one example where Sister Lucy, the real one, according to this theory, the real one becomes the criminal rather than those in the Vatican who perpetrated this crime. We have a picture of the fake Sister Lucy going to vote. We have a video going to vote and ready to cast her ballot in the name of using the name of the real Sister Lucy, and she can't even remember her name. By the way, they have to tell her, sort of lead her along and say, "Oh, are you this person?" And yeah, oh yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's me. And then she puts her ballot in the box. Well, that's the election fraud. So is the real Sister Lucy guilty of election fraud? for the sake of obedience. No,
This is
you don't commit a crime for the sake of obedience. Sorry, friends, you don't.
okay.
No,
Let
these
me.
people are trying to cover up for what the Vatican did and make it seem like it was really nothing. That's terrible, and they
Yeah,
should stop because they have no evidence, no real evidence to justify this claim.
and the real reason is that they're trying to cover up the fact that the church has changed into that counterfeit church. That's got to be the ultimate. We have to work
Right.
through Sister
Oh,
Lucy to make
exactly.
sure that. Go ahead.
The real Sister Lucy would have went along with the counterfeit church. She would have bought it hook, line, and sinker, and in every possible way.
Oh, she made it
Again,
clear that she wouldn't do that. I mean,
no. And see, it what it does, it pulls the rug out from under traditionalists who, sort of look to the real Sister Lucy as sort of a model. And, and let's
right.
just face it, if the real sister, if the, that's why John the 23rd on October 11th, 1962, disgustingly spoke about the prophets of doom. And let me just say, there's no doubt that he was talking about Sister Lucy and the children of Fatima and Our Lady of Fatima. There's no doubt that that
Oh,
Freemason was speaking about that.
they
That
were the
Freemason,
prophets.
that Freemason, that modernist was speaking about them, no doubt. And this brand new bright world that the 60s pretended was dawning, and in
Oh,
these, and in these Freemasonic minds, that was what was happening, right? Oh, this new age is dawning. Yeah, a new age of a complete collapse of Catholic faith, Catholic practice, Catholic morality, and even natural morality would collapse, and the world would be brought to the state of total destruction and cultural degeneration and all these things. And no, and oh, the prophets of doom, don't listen to them. Yeah, this criminal, who I think is ultimately responsible for the disappearance of Sister Lucy, John the 23rd, Angelo Roncalli, this disgusting figure. No, he knew
well,
what he was talking about, and he would have never made that statement if the real Sister Lucy was still on the scene.
I think that's interesting about the prophets of doom. I had never put that together
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
that's fabulous. That's fabulous. Now, I have one question. Suzanne Pearson has, like you, has investigated all this stuff for years and years. And she seems to think that there were letters written by the real Sister Lucy to her cousins and that have surfaced. And that was all after 1958. Like, I guess during the time when she was kind of like not even heard from or whatever. Are you familiar with those letters?
Well, it it wasn't her, as far as we know. It wasn't her. If it wasn't her, I mean, we have handwriting analysis of letters written from that time, and we find fraud, fraud, fraud. I know our famous letters that we've had analyzed with Bart Baggett, who's this world class, an analyst of handwriting, and so I would say simply, those things have to be submitted to handwriting analysis, just because all those letters had to be passed through Mother Prioress. Nothing was private. And how would, if they're writing in a certain vein, how would, obviously the relatives either were forced into silence, or they simply did not realize what had happened, and they were separated from Sister Lucy, by a distance. And that such a thing was plausible before it became clear that Sister Lucy was replaced.
Well, the other
But
thing is
that's not plausible anymore.
there
I
is
mean,
there is such thing as forgery,
right?
and
Absolutely, and
and
that's what happened. And I mean, if she could, I mean, if they could actually submit that handwriting analysis, well, that would be interesting to find out what's going on there. But uh, that's why we did it. That's why we did it. That's why we submitted, hundreds and hundreds of pages of authentic, verifiably authentic text of Sister Lucy to Bart Baggett, and he, used those authentic memoirs and letters to analyze letters written later, 1980, 1969, and signatures from this period. And
and so
so,
so it
I
was
mean,
revealed. It was
it's like,
revealed to him that those letters were forgeries.
yeah, absolutely. It's all on it's on our website, sisterlucytruth.com.
Okay.
Handwriting analysis. So sisterlucytruth.com, the handwriting, go to the evidence section and go to the handwriting section,
Mm-hmm.
and you have his full report, and he signs it, and he says, I'll testify in court that this is true and hold me accountable if it's not true. So
Okay.
we
Well,
we,
that's
we
interesting.
stick by that because we know he's a totally unbiased individual, and he had all we gave him the earlier supply of authentic text that no one would question from pre 1960, pre in the 40s and 30s and 20s,
Yeah.
and so yeah, no, you have to submit it to analysis, just like what about when they occasionally met the real Sister Lucy, the sisters, um, they would, it was behind the screen.
Yeah, that's what I was
The
going to say.
real,
Remember?
the real Sister I mean, behind the screen, the grill, surrounded by other nuns in the convent, and they even wore a mask, like in the traditional the traditional Carmelite order. Their faces veiled, even when they speak to people, through the grill. And so I don't know. I think this is still,
Uh,
I think this is an attempt to sort of save the narrative. And as part of the whole Fatima Center attempt to save the narrative. And I think the narrative should be changed according to the facts. And
well, they don't want. They can't have that. They can't
no, they
have
can't
that.
have that. They
Because
can't have that.
if that were the case, then they would have to acknowledge everything we talked about already about the popes.
And
They can't do that.
their involvement and who they are and their
Yeah,
characters,
and yeah,
and but see, there's so much. But so, I mean, do they really need to? I mean, so much is made clear in by this empirical fact that there was a fake Sister Lucy put in place. Basically, is so much was made clear. She was eliminated because of something they didn't want to reveal, and they didn't want to reveal the true content of the third secret. Apparently, I think we don't know for certain, but just in making logical inferences, they didn't want to reveal the true third secret. They didn't want to have the true, authentic Fatima message go forward, and therefore, and it's clear, and we just need to go back to the authentic Fatima message and forget the static that has happened since 1960 to into the 21st century. It's just been static and distortion. But there is the authentic. It doesn't. I mean, nothing that we've said about an imposter Sister Lucy cast aspersions on the authentic Fatima message.
No.
Nothing. Our Lady asked for the consecration of Russia. That's true. Our Lady asked for the first Saturday devotions. That's true. Our Lady asked for the penance for sin, and that's true. Said say the Rosary every day. That's true. What? How are we in any way downplaying the authentic Fatima message? We're not, by making this obvious empirical claim.
Oh, that's interesting. That prophets of doom too. I,
Yeah.
I I really appreciate that reference because, we are living in the doom that they prophesied, and
Right.
you've already said
We
it.
could
But
never imagine it, by the way. I
no,
don't
not
think anyone
then.
in the 50s or 60s, I don't think anyone in the 50s could ever imagine that
Oh,
the world would be like it is and the church would be like it is.
well, once they changed the liturgy, I mean, you can't do that. You cannot. From
I
1571 or whenever 1517,
right,
whatever that date was, you can't change the liturgy. It's for all times in
right.
perpetuity.
And when I was born in 1965, and when I was sort of conscious in the 70s, um, it, and it was like the old church was completely gone. Like
Yes,
there was nowhere to be found. I mean, in the Novus Ordo, this is nothing like, because I read I had old missals, and I read old books and Bibles, and I knew that this was not what was being displayed in those old books. What I encounter in my Novus Ordo church in the 70s, this is not that. It was
well,
like, where did that thing go? Where did that go?
think of all of us who lived for a long time. I was born in 1940, so figure out how many years I lived within the true church, within the true traditional
Right.
liturgy, the true devotions, and all that
Right.
stuff, and to see this incremental change, one little step at a time. We're all sitting around obeying because we were taught to obey the priests. And you see this thing until finally it's so corrupt. You say, this isn't the same church that I grew up in.
Right.
There's something wrong here. And it took a lot of learning and a lot of experience and a lot of people educating me to make me see that this is wrong. This thing is phony.
Right.
And of course, then like you delve into it, you read a lot, and you experience other people who are teaching you as well. And you say, oh, thank you for waking me up.
Right. And you would hope that the whole Sister Lucy truth investigation would be a wake up call for so many. But see, they can't go that far. They can't look at the facts for what they are. They can't acknowledge the criminality, because I think stealing the religion of God away from the masses is criminality also.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
Level. I mean, that's far more than the disappearance of any individual.
Yeah.
So,
well, just make sure that you pray to John Paul the 23rd, John the 20th, whatever their numbers are. Make sure you pray to all of them, because they're all saints in heaven. They've all been,
and they try to give them prominence, and they put them into St. Peter's in a very prominent place.
I know.
Altars. They put John the 23rd and John Paul II, and I'll tell you, when you go to the Vatican, the most people that are praying on any side altar, it's always in front of the tomb of John Paul II.
Second. Oh, I'm sure.
There's a lot of people that are totally deluded about. Well, I think they just don't know what the real Catholic faith is.
Well, they've never seen it. Yeah,
no, I don't think they've ever seen it.
If you haven't been exposed to it and you haven't been enlightened, what are you going to do? These poor people, I feel sorry for them, but it's the whole thing is just
see, if you
enough to bring you to tears.
If you were praying before his tomb, would you? If you saw the truth of what happened to Sister Lucy and how he distorted and how he went along with the fraud, and even he's the one that brought it forward again and renewed it in 1982 when he, visited her, and it ends up being where he's the meaning of the third secret. If you were praying at his tomb and devoted to him and he was the big hero, how would you view the claims of Sister Lucy Truth that there was an imposter the whole time and he was meeting with an imposter, and he obviously knew about it? But how would you view those claims? You'd have to try to change or turn the facts to some other scenario that makes John Paul II seem fine and, kind-hearted and, concerned about the real Sister Lucy, certainly.
A hero of the church.
Right.
Oh,
right,
boy. What a misery. What a misery.
That's the sad facts, but that's what we're dealing with now. And
well, you'll probably have something new in another 6 months. They'll come up with some new scenario.
Sure.
Somewhere along the line, and you'll have to deal with it. Oh my, anything to stop the truth. Isn't that just exactly?
It's terrible, but that's what we're dealing with, and in a way, we shouldn't be surprised.
Well, I know we shouldn't, and I there's always going to be this kind of stuff going on, but it's good that you named it Sister Lucy Truth, because the truth can set you free, and our Lord is truth. He's truth, and eventually it's all going to come out, and we'll know. Maybe it might be the last judgment, but we'll know. But in the meantime, all we do is fight, Peter. We just keep fighting.
I know.
There's nothing more we can do except fight for God and His true church.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh boy, it's tough. Well. I guess we'll wrap it up. Is there anything other, last minute thought you might have?
Well, just pray for our endeavor and whatever support people can give us. We're next year, 2025, we plan to make a presentation to a professional organization, present our case to a professional organization, nothing to do with the church at all. And, they've agreed to hear our case. So
interesting. Well,
I don't want to give any more details.
No, that's fine.
Lest I blow the whole thing.
No, but let us.
when we should get some interesting publicity soon. So
good, and let us know when that happens, so you can come and tell us about it.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, in the meantime, good luck, and
thank you.
And we do support you and wish you, success in all that you're doing, and just keep up the good work, and God bless you for all that. And
thank you,
all right.
Judy. Thank you for this opportunity.
You're welcome, and we'll talk again.
Okay.
God bless you, Peter, and your family, and we'll just say Notre Dame de Chartres. Pray for us.
Pray for us.